video is sponsored by Squarespace. I went to the hardware store to buy a wheelbarrow, and instead I left with this entire laundry basket of spring bulbs. My name is Serina, and I have a garden shopping addiction. It's been 20 years since this addiction started. You know, like I started small. I think a lot of you can relate to this. You know, a few seed packets for the veggie garden, you know, picking up a few flowers here and there throughout the year. But over the last 6 years, it's gotten a little bit out of control. I used to have a farm, and having, you know, over an acre of growing space meant that I was able to indulge myself to the point that I was purchasing entire pallets of garden materials. Recently, I've gotten my own home, and you know, I've needed to learn how to really reel myself back. But there's nothing planted here. This place is a complete blank slate. There's so much room for plants, so it can be really challenging to control myself. So when I was in the hardware store, you know, indulging in looking at all the Christmas amaryllis bulbs that were out, telling myself, no, Serina, you can't buy those this year. And then the lady came and stuck a $2 sign on all the leftover spring bulbs. What can I say? I just had to grab a shopping cart and buy most of them. So I'm really excited to share what I got in here. I ended up buying 62 packets. There's about 1,000 bulbs in here, and it cost me less than $150 and a lot less than the wheelbarrow that I also came home with. So I'm really excited to share what I got here, because having this many bulbs is going to completely transform what this space is going to look like come the spring. Bulbs like this, normally these packets were like $10, $15. To buy this amount of spring beauty would have been very, very expensive. And it wasn't in the budget. It was gonna be, oh, you know, every year I can buy a few packs at Costco and keep stacking everything up. But they got me with the deal, and I'm really excited. First thing I have in there is I got 5 packs of garlic. So each of these garlic packs have a single head of seed garlic in it, and this has been on my list of things that I was going to spend money on this year. I've just been procrastinating a little bit. I love garlic, and nothing is tastier than homegrown garlic. And so I'm planning on planting about 100 heads. Just up behind me, I have a raised bed that I am not going to want to have in place for, you know, seasons going forward, but I'm not going to get around to removing it until the summer. So putting something like garlic in there is like the perfect use for the space, because you plant garlic now in the fall, like the rest of these spring blooming bulbs, and then it grows, and it usually in our area is harvested around July. So I'm really excited. The varieties here are varieties that I'm familiar with. One of them is Nootka Rose, and then the other one is Dugansky. In our area, the most common garlic to get grown is called Red Russian. It's not necessarily always the same. It's just a very strong, very pungent, large head with red color that grows really well in the area. So I didn't buy enough of the garlic to completely fill the bed. This is about 50% of the garlic that I'll need, because I plan on picking up a pound or two of the Red Russian from one of the local farms. Next up, I got a pack of something that I've never grown myself before. These are Highsynthoids, and like looking at the picture on the packets, they look almost like a leggy version of a hyacinth, you know, and it's being marked as carpet of color in your wooded area. So I need to do a little bit of research on these, but with 80 bulbs of these, you know, I'm thinking if this is something that could be kind of grown in an area that gets sun in the spring, but then the leaf cover comes in and, you know, limits the sun in the summer, maybe these are something that would be really attractive in my more shade garden areas. Usually when I plant these spring blooming bulbs, I'm planting them in a full sun location. I've never had shade before, and one of the things I'm really excited about my new place is having a lot of shade to work with. So I'm excited that there's gonna be flowers to experiment with that I've never grown before. When I first saw the sale, the deal, I was like, oh, in my head I was like, daffodils, narcissus. Those are something that I really would like to get more of onto my property here. This year already I've planted 1,000 tulip bulbs just in the space behind me here. But the tulip bulbs that I have are tulip bulbs left over from the cut flower industry. I saved them all summer from when I did the cut flowers with the tulips. And what happens with them is they don't necessarily bloom. They don't necessarily even survive. It can take about 3 years before those small, kind of sad bulbs turn into something that can come back year after year. And I am lucky here in Kelowna in the Okanagan. It's a zone 5. It gets cold enough in the winter that tulips will bloom. I don't have to worry about not getting enough chill hours like people down in kind of southern United States do. And we're also really lucky. It's very, very dry here. So in the summer, there's not a lot of moisture in the ground. Even over the winter, there's not a lot of moisture in the ground. So we don't have to worry too much about the bulbs rotting. So tulips come back really, really strongly year after year. But because I have these kind of garbagey tulips to work with, I'd been thinking, you know, I don't really need to invest into them. So I went through everything and I made up this big pile, and then I was like, well, but $2 a packet, how can you say no, right? So I was like, what? Let's get some tulips. So there was more tulips than what I purchased. I was very restrained. I only bought some of them. But I'm really excited to get these in because like I said, I planted 1,000 tulips this year, but I don't know if I'm gonna have any tulips blooming next year. These tulips that I've purchased and I'm gonna put into the ground over this week, these I know will be blooming for me. So it means I'll have tulip flowers in the garden next year as well as years and years to come. Okay, so I got 3 packs of San Luis, and this is a fringed tulip. So that means they're like a single, and then they got this like roughly edge to them. And so that's 45 of these in total. I've never actually grown this variety before. I have grown fringed tulips. I've grown lots of different types of tulips. But I love the color on this. This is just a gorgeous color. And it's gonna go really nicely with some of the other colors that I got here. Because I'm thinking of, you know, creating like color mixes, clusters, you know, and like maybe all the pinks will go in one part of the yard, whereas the more vibrant colors I'll put in a separate area. Because I also got this double tulip, Fionla, and like look at the color on that. Isn't that beautiful? So I got 3 packs of this too, which is another 45. And this is a late variety. So if I plant these together, the fringed one would probably bloom first and then the double would open up. So it would give like a nice show. But the tulip I'm the most excited about, which I'm gonna add into that pink mix, is this. It's a double and it's called Ice Cream. And I've seen this, I've been drooling over this variety for years now when putting in my wholesale order for the farm, and I haven't been able to justify buying it because they cost about $1 a bulb. And so these packs, they're a pack of 10. So I bought 4 packs, so I have 40 of these now, and I got them for $8, which means they are way, way less than $1 a bulb. These just, like, in the pictures that I've seen of these look incredible. So I'm super excited to see what they look like in person. This might be the single item that I'm the most excited about having gotten on that sale rack And then I have 5 packs of this double late tulip, yellow pomponette. So I have 150 of these ones in total, and this I've grown a lot. This is one of my favorite flowers to grow as a cut flower back on the farm. This is a really, really consistent tulip. It comes up really strong, it's really disease resistant, it grows really well, it's really forgiving, and it's big and beautiful and bright and puffy, and I love these. This was actually something that I was planning on probably purchasing in a wholesale volume, getting like 100 or 200 of them to get into my yard. At a wholesale price, I can get these for about 40 cents per bulb. So I was really interested to see that the pricing was really close to wholesale on these, even at their regular price. I mean, I paid $2 for these packs of 30, so I paid way better than wholesale price. But yeah, no, these, you know, even at this full retail price, they were surprisingly good deal. So I wanted to show you guys, because I do have a handful of these that I'd taken from the farm that I'm going to be growing as cut flowers here. And so even though the prices are really similar, the one thing that's different is they're different size bulbs, right? And that's one of the differences from these wholesale sources over the years that I've been buying from the farm, and what you get when you're buying them in these retail settings, big box stores type thing. So marked on the packet that I bought, it was saying that the size on these yellow pomponettes is an 11-12. Right? And so you can see the size of them there. And I don't know off the top of my head the sizing of the wholesale ones, but here's a comparison to show, right? So you can see that they're substantially larger visually. And what that means for when growing these is that the flower, the size of the flower, you know, how many leaves, how strong the plant is going to be coming up is going to be significantly larger on these bigger size, whereas the blooms are going to be smaller, not as many, not as impactful, you know, and would take a couple years before they're going to have flowers similar to this. So, you know, interesting to kind of see the grade comparison. I have never actually bought retail tulip bulbs before. I've only ever purchased them, you know, for at the farm. So I thought it was fun to do the comparison. And then I have one more tulip to mix that I'm gonna mix in with the yellow pomponettes. This is Gavotta, I don't know, I can never pronounce anything. And I think that this color is gonna look really nice with it, with that, like the striking red, but still the bit of the yellow notes on it. And this is a Triumph tulip. If I was to go and buy single tulips that I wanted to come back year after year, be the strongest, be the stuff that really is gonna kind of stick around in the garden, my go-to types of tulips that I'd probably buy would be these Triumph types of tulips, and then also Darwin tulips. I find that the Triumph series, they bloom a little bit earlier than the Darwins. So, you know, having a mix of both of those can get you a nice long season of stuff that comes back year after year if you're in an area where tulips do really well. And then they had one random pack of 30 of this other Triumph tulip mix, which is Jan Van Ness and Ronaldo. And I think that these colors, yet again, they're gonna blend in really nicely with that yellow pomponette mix, kind of those burgundies, reds, and yellows. I think it's gonna be really impactful. As I was saying before I got distracted by the tulips, I was really excited to see all the daffodils or narcissus. I love them. They come back year after year. In the Okanagan, we do have some pest issues with them. There's like a maggot that can get into the daffodils that make it so they don't come back year after year. As a kid growing up in a different area of town, they were, you know, you plant them and you'd only get a year or two out of them. But I do see them in the area, the new area that I live, and so different areas have different pest pressure. So I'm hopeful that I can be growing these and having them come back year after year. Over on the farm, over the last couple of years, I invested really heavily into the daffodils. I think as of now, there's 6,000 planted, but my goal was to get longer stem varieties, scented varieties. It wasn't really what they looked like that mattered when I was buying them. I do plan over the years to be buying in specific varieties, to being a little picky about the daffodils. I really like them. I love the fact that they can come in whites and pinks and yellows and oranges. The variety is so varied. They can be these large, huge flowers to these clusters. They can be super, super scented. We have a variety, I can't remember the name of it off of the top of my head, at the farm, and it was so scented that when the 100 that we had planted bloomed, the whole field would smell like the flowers. And so I'm excited to fill in the corners with those. But these $2 bags are gonna make a really great backbone, for over the years as I add more and more. So I have 3 bags of this red Devon, and these are 12 in the bag, so I have 36 of these, and I love this with the orange cups. I don't have any of the classic yellow. I do want to get some. I just hadn't been able to find any to purchase yet this year, and time's running out. They're blowing them out for $2. But I think that this is gonna look really nice, getting that punch of the brighter color, especially if I mix these in with over where I have the yellow pomponettes. I think those will be a really good blend. And then they had one of my favorite types. This is a split Corona Narcissus. This variety is Orangery. I've never grown this specific one, but this type of daffodil is just, I love these. There's a few pink styles that I've grown over the years on the farm. And when they come up, the flowers are just so large, and that center cup being split, it's just so frilly and pretty. So I'm really excited to see what this variety is gonna look like. So I got 12 of that. And then I got 8 bags with 15, so that's 120 of this Tet Busla, I don't know. I can never pronounce anything. And I love this type of narcissus too. These have mini flower clusters, and they're all frilly and pretty. And so in this bright yellow, I really like the look of this. This is gonna be really fun, and a bunch of these varieties, I haven't looked up all the details on them because I bought them because they're $2 a bag. But in the past, when I've grown this style, they've tended to be a little taller. So I'm excited to look this up and see if this also is a taller variety. It's fun when they kind of sit up above everything else in the bulbs. One of the spring bulbs that I've always loved the most, that I've always grown, even though I've over the years not been great at investing into flowers. This is something I've always put my money into. And that is crocuses. I love crocuses because they are the very first thing that flowers in the spring. And so when I see the crocuses in my mind, that means it's go time. When the crocuses bloom is a perfect indicator for the soil's now warm enough that you can start, working in your soil. You can start putting in the cool, loving crops into the ground. If the soil's warm enough that you can be planting those cool weather crops because the crocuses are growing and blooming. You can also be thinking about if you should be seed starting your summer crops. So, every time I see crocus blooms, even if they're not in my yard, anywhere I see them, they make me happy because it means that the garden's coming alive again. And so I bought 10 packs of this. This variety is Siberia Tricolor. It's a classic purple crocus, and each of these packs have 20, so that's 200 crocuses that I can scatter around. I think you know, the crocus bulbs are really small, right? So you can kind of see in the bag there. And you really do need a large number of them to do like a good showing. So even though I have 200, that's the most I have out of any individual thing that I bought, the 200 really isn't going to do a very large area. I'm thinking that I'm gonna have an area that's close to my door, close to my house, where I'm gonna kind of create like a display, and I'll stagger things. I'll have the crocuses in there, and then the daffodils, which bloom before the tulips, and then I'll have some of the early tulips and some of the late blooming tulips, so that it kind of always does a showing, so that every time I come in and out my door when spring is here, I'll be able to see those flowers and get excited. I'm gonna put it in the most visually in your face spot so that I can just love on my crocuses. And then I got one last thing. I used to be a bit of a growing snob. I didn't ever want to grow flowers, which is very strange how I ended up having a flower farm, but I only ever wanted to grow things that you could eat. So it was hard to convince me to put flowers into my vegetable garden because that would take up space where I could put more vegetables. But one thing I made an exception for was that I've always loved growing alliums. And I've justified it because alliums are just onion flowers. So technically they're still a vegetable. Even though they're not for eating, they're for decorative. They are still an onion, so so they followed my rules. But I love alliums. There's something that I've consistently spent money on over the 20 years of gardening. I love seeing them. They get so tall. They remind me of like fireworks. I love all of them, from chive flowers up to the massive varieties. I want them all. And so at $2 a pack, I indulge. So they had one pack left of Purple Sensation, and if you've never grown alliums before, this is the variety that I'd highly recommend. They're very affordable. So like this pack here is 15 bulbs, and it originally was only $10. This is quite affordable compared to a lot of the other alliums. And this is just a great, simple allium to grow. It's super consistent. It sets up a flower every time I've planted it. Some of the bigger ones I find are a little bit inconsistent. They'll kind of only flower every second year or so. But yeah, the Purple Sensation comes back strong year after year. Nice, good height. The flower is like quite showy. It's a really beautiful, rich, dark color. Yeah, and with the price, you can really you can afford to invest into them. And then I got a few varieties that I've never tried growing before. So I got 3 packs of Summer Drummer, and these have 7 per pack. So that would be 21 of Summer Drummer. And, I like the look of that. So I've never grown this type of allium before, but I've seen them. So they're like a tighter flower. The Purple Sensation is quite open, more of that like firework look. Whereas this, it's quite tight. It's more like a bud for most of the time when it blooms, and then it kind of fluffs out at the very end when all the petals open up. So, and then I don't know about this specific variety, I'll have to look it up, but these also tend to be a little bit shorter. So, kind of mix in nicely with what I have. And then I have 3 packs of Rosy Dream. There's 16 in each of these, so what is that? 42? No? I don't know. Bunch of these ones. No, 48, right? I don't know. This is more of like a chive type allium flower. So they're smaller, the flowers are quite small. And then I don't know, I've never grown these chive style ones before because I've only ever just had chives. But I'm curious to know if they'll kind of cluster the way like a chive plant will. But the color on this, gorgeous like pinky warm tones. So that'll be fun. And then they had some really exciting ones. This is when the alliums get harder to invest into, but easy when the packs are $2. These are the larger varieties. So I got this one. This is Pinball Wizard, and there's 3 in this pack, which is normally $15. So these are regularly $5 each, and I've grown this one before, and this is a nice big flower head. These are really impressive with how big they get. And the flowers themselves are quite dense, so it's a really, really attractive, really tall, this is like a statement flower in the garden. And then a little bit smaller, but still bigger than that purple sensation, more impactful, is I got 2 packs of Magic, and these had 10 in each of them. So I got 20 of these ones. A little bit smaller again, but like denser flowers. This one's a little bit more cup shaped, if I remember correct. And then they had a single pack of Gladiator, and there's 3 in this pack. And yet again, like same, they're not quite as large as the Pinball Wizard, but big, tall, impact, statement. And then I got 5 packs, which have 3 each of this mix. So it has Gladiator and Mount Everest in it. And Gladiator is the purple one, and then Mount Everest is the white. And, you know, yet again, they're kind of the same, just in the 2 colors, where, you know, they're quite tall in the garden. They're these nice big balls, and they're really fun. So on that, there's 15 of those. So, you know, having 21 of those like extra large, like in your face alliums, I'm really excited. I'm super excited about what things are gonna look like come spring here next year. So now that I've shared them all with you, I have to go plant them all. I have 1,000 bulbs, so wish me luck. This is gonna take me a while. If, like me, you need a website for your business, Squarespace can help. Squarespace is an all-in-one website platform for entrepreneurs to stand out and succeed online. Whether you're just starting out or managing a growing brand, Squarespace makes it easy to create a beautiful website, engage with your audience, and sell anything from products to content to time, all in one place, all on your terms. I love how easy they make it for me to build a website. But that's not all. Squarespace payments and invoicing helps me run my business in person too. Domains by Squarespace makes it the first as well as last stop in building my website. And they even have tools to help me sell content or courses, which is really valuable for a creator like me. Go to squarespace.com for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/youcan'teatthegrass to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.